She was only 19 when her world crumbled. Standing barefoot on the dusty ground outside the village's broken-down bus stop, Sana held tightly to the frayed straps of her cloth bag. Inside were just 2 pairs of clothes, a cracked picture of her younger self, and a heart that had learned to stop hoping. The last words her father spoke to her echoed like a curse. "You're barren. What good are you to us now?" The man who handed her a one-way bus ticket didn't even look her in the eyes. Infertility had been a quiet storm in her young married life. Married off at 16, she had endured 3 years of trying, praying, and crying into pillows. Her husband, under the pressure of his family, left her one evening without a word. She returned to her parents' home, only to be treated like a returned product, used, damaged, unwanted. And when money got tight, they made the decision. Sell her. Trade her. Hand her off to an old acquaintance from a far-off village who knew someone in need of help on his farm. She didn't even know what that meant. The bus ride was long and silent. No one asked her name. No one noticed the quiet tears sliding down her cheeks. She had no idea where she was going. All she knew was that she didn't belong anywhere anymore. When the bus finally halted in the mountains, the driver gestured lazily toward a dirt path. "That's the way," he said without care, and drove off in a cloud of dust. Sana walked. It was cold, and the trees stretched tall and wide, like guardians of a world she didn't understand. After what felt like hours, she stumbled upon a small wooden cabin surrounded by snow-dusted pines. Chopping wood in front of the cabin was a tall man with a thick beard, rough hands, and eyes that, despite their hardness, seemed strangely tired. He noticed her and paused. "You, Sana?" She nodded weakly. He didn't smile. Just pointed to the steps. "Come in. Kids'll be home soon." Kids. Her legs trembled. She wasn't sure what she expected, but certainly not children. She had always been told she'd never have her own. She had imagined a life alone, a shadow of womanhood trailing behind her in shame. Inside, the cabin was warm and smelled like firewood, stew, and old memories. It was simple but alive. Pictures hung on the wall, of a woman with kind eyes and 4 children, all with the same dark hair and bright eyes. But the woman was not there. "She was my wife," the man said later that evening, when they sat across from each other in silence. "Cancer. Took her 2 years ago." Sana didn't know what to say. "I didn't bring you here for what you think," he said, glancing at her. "I don't need a wife. I need help. I need someone who won't run when it gets hard." "I'm barren," she said suddenly, the word falling out like a wound ripped open. He looked at her for a long while and then said, "I didn't bring you here to make babies. I brought you here to love the ones already here, if you can." It was the first time in years someone saw her as more than her womb. The next few weeks were hard. The children, aged from 3 to 10, were quiet, guarded. They had lost a mother once and didn't want another ghost. Sana burned the food twice, forgot to salt the stew, and one of the girls cried herself to sleep every night. But slowly, something began to shift. Sana started telling them stories at night, soft tales of kindness, giants with wooden hearts, and stars that watched over lost children. The youngest began crawling into her lap. The eldest handed her a drawing with the words, "Thank you," written in uneven letters. She stitched their torn socks, braided hair, and sat by the eldest when he struggled with math. She wasn't their mother. But she was someone. The lumberjack, his name was Yusuf, wasn't a man of many words. But he worked hard, chopping, repairing, doing whatever it took to keep his children safe. Sana began helping him in the woods. He taught her to cut wood, to ride the old horse to town, and to trust the quiet between them. One night, as snow blanketed the land in silver stillness, the youngest girl came to Sana and whispered, "Will you be our mama now?" Sana didn't answer. She just held her close and wept. Months turned into a year. Sanaa was no longer a girl sold by her parents, she was the heartbeat of the cabin. She had learned to smile again. Yusuf began to watch her differently, his silences more thoughtful, his words a little warmer. He once handed her a wooden carving, a small mother bird sheltering 4 little ones under her wings. Nothing was said. Nothing had to be. Then came a letter from her old village. Her mother had fallen ill. Sanaa returned alone, not out of duty but to find closure. The house looked smaller. Her father avoided her eyes. Her mother, frail and tired, reached for her hand. "We were wrong," she whispered. "You were always meant to be more than we ever saw." Sanaa forgave them, not for their sake, but for her own peace. When she returned to the cabin, the children ran to her like the roots of a tree welcoming the rain. Yusuf stood at the porch, a quiet strength as always. That night, over simple stew and laughter, Yusuf finally said it. "I think this place became a home the day you walked in." Sanaa looked around at the 4 faces, at the warm light of the fire, at the man whose strength had never once demanded, only protected. She smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks, not from sadness, but from something she had forgotten she could feel. Belonging. Because sometimes, life doesn't begin where you're born. It begins where you're accepted. Where love is chosen. Where broken things are gently held and slowly made whole. And in that mountain cabin, a woman once abandoned had become the mother of 4, and the keeper of a quiet, fierce kind of love.